Hola, ¿qué tal amigos? ¿Cómo están? Muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Jorge Edgar Hernández Serra y estoy muy contento el día de hoy de estar con ustedes. Hace mucho que no transmitía nada, hace mucho que no estaba haciendo esto que me encanta, que es estar compartiendo con ustedes información y retroalimentándome. Este proyecto pues es uno de los nuevos proyectos que estamos realizando. Ya tenemos algún tiempo preparándolo y espero que les guste. Les voy a comentar el día de hoy más o menos una presentación de lo que es el Hierbalife, y al final les voy a poner un documental de MTV sobre la marihuana, un documental que la verdad está muy bueno. Posiblemente no lo pueda pasar todo hoy, así que voy a pasar una parte y la próxima transmisión en vivo pasaré la parte final. Muy bien, pues les quiero mostrar lo que es Hierbalife. primeramente estaríamos enfocándonos dentro de este proyecto que empezamos a realizar. Hay muchas cosas que van a estar formándose en este proyecto, como por ejemplo el plan de medios. Va a haber entrevistas con agricultores, va a haber entrevistas con proveedores de diferentes materiales. Vamos a ver el proceso del autocultivo, cuáles son la legislación, qué es lo que necesitamos nosotros para empezar, cómo nos vamos a ir organizando. Todo esto se va a ir formando alrededor de lo que sería nuestros medios de comunicación, como lo es la página web, que de ahí derivará la página de Facebook, de ahí deriva también lo que es el canal de YouTube, y en estos tres elementos estar combinándolos para poder crear un canal de comunicación. También estaría el grupo de WhatsApp. Todo esto estaría vinculando primeramente para generar comunidad, y de esta forma vamos a ir apoyando los diferentes proyectos que se van generando en las diferentes entidades, o sea, como grupo, como red. Nos vamos agrupando y generando pues lo que es esta nueva cultura para el consumo lúdico y medicinal de la cannabis. Hay países que ya están muy evolucionados, la legislación ha avanzado muchísimo al respecto. Hoy en día pues podemos ver nuestra legislación, que la vamos a estudiar, y vamos a ver cómo entrar poco a poco a todos estos temas. Y para eso es precisamente este canal, y para eso es precisamente este proyecto de Hierbalife. Regresa al origen. Pues bien, sin más por el momento, me gustaría invitarlos a ver esta primera parte del documental Going to Pot, The High and Low of It, que está en Paramount Plus. Contenido, la verdad, a mí me encantó. Dice mucho al respecto. Quería mostrárselos, quería también que lo disfrutaran. Lo pueden ver ya con una excelente calidad. Ahorita, por cuestiones de restricciones, y no queremos tener un tema con el video, se lo voy a presentar en partes. Voy a presentarles pues la primera parte, y la próxima transmisión presentaré la segunda parte. Vamos a verla, y aquí está.
Reefer,
pot,
grass,
chronic,
herb,
dope,
ganja,
devil's lettuce,
sticky icky,
wacky tobacco.
weed.
Call it what you like.
Why do we call it 420?
And ask us anything you want.
Is weed really gonna give me the munchies?
Can I really get a contact high?
Everything you wanted to know about weed.
Is my weed safe to smoke?
Why is vaping dangerous?
And then some.
How do I grow it?
Will pot improve my sex life?
So many questions.
How many joints can one dude smoke?
Maybe. You think you know,
Maybe you have no idea.
but don't be paranoid.
Because we've got the answers.
Sometimes it seems like the whole world is going to pot
So why not kick back?
as we take you through the high and low of it.
I get a contact high.
You meet up with with your friends and they're getting stoned. One is taking hits from a bomb, the other's passing around a joint. You say no thanks, but they've been lighting up for a while, and smoke fills the air in the room where you're all hanging out. Is it possible that the smog might be giving you a bit of the fog? Could you be experiencing a contact high? That would almost certainly be a hard no. It is only in the most extreme circumstances, like packing tightly into a small, unventilated space with numerous people actively smoking lots of weed over an extended period, that you could maybe inhale enough secondhand smoke to actually catch a buzz. Even if you do, it's highly unlikely that you absorbed enough pot to fail that drug test at work on Monday morning.
Why do we call it 420?
The weight on a scale, the calendar date, or the time of day, which inspired one of the modern era's best known numerical references. 420's origin story can be traced back to San Rafael, California in the 1970s, and a group of high school friends, a posse of stoners who called themselves the Waldos. Every day after school, the Waldos met up to get stoned at exactly 4:20 p.m. And thus, a code name was born. 420 was no longer just a number, no longer just a stroke of the clock. 420 was now shorthand for weed, at least amongst 5 friends growing up and smoking up just across the bridge from San Francisco. So how did the Waldo secret slang go global? It turns out that at least one of the Waldos commingled with members of the Grateful Dead at the band's rehearsal space in San Rafael. It's assumed the Dead and some of their fans picked up the term there before carrying it back to the hate, where it spread amongst the hippies, who in turn took it on the road with them as they followed the band all over the map in the 70s and 80s, eventually Times magazine became hip to the term and amplified it. Now a part of the universal lexicon, 420 has even inspired an unofficial holiday. And we're guessing you know what day that is.
Can weed be a source of creativity?
It's an age-old question that many feel was settled when Bob Dylan introduced the Beatles to marijuana in 1964. Paul McCartney has been quoted as saying the inspiration behind the band's seminal Sgt. Pepper album can be summed up in one word: pot.
So, does cannabis make people more creative?
Talk to any musician, any artist, even the average person, they'll say it does.
First time I used cannabis was in college, performing a lot of classical and jazz music, and particularly with jazz, the use of cannabis was a way for me to get outside of my own head and really sort of explore new ideas that I didn't even realize were in there.
Memphis-born singer-songwriter Jazzy is responsible for turning Billy Ray Cyrus all hip-hop on the smash hit remix to Lil Nas X's Old Town Road.
Head down, cross town, living like a rock star. Spend a lot of money on my brand new guitar.
Jazzy, who co-wrote the track, credits her creative prowess on the record-setting chart topper to the power of pot.
Riding down Rodeo with my Maserati sports car.
Think about Billy Ray and think about his wife is they're avid weed smokers. That's one thing I Billy, he just was relaxed and he let me just do me. We're not gonna go country on Old Town Road. It's already country. You're gonna be a rapper.
Got no stress. I'm through all that. I'm like a Marlboro man, so I keep going back.
That's what we did. Give him cool rap bars. He got in the booth, took some puffs, and he made a banger. When I write songs, I do not know what I'm gonna write about until I get in the booth. And I really think that stems from weed. I let it freestyle. Everything is like, comes out thin air from God. Smoke some, it will tap into another dimension. It kind of wakens up your third eye a little bit.
Cannabis creates non-linear thinking and feelings of sort of a non-ordinary state of consciousness and kind of allow you to get out of your routinized thought patterns into something that is more free-flowing.
So there is what anecdotally people describe, which is that yes, it makes you creative. But if you look at the official studies, there's more complexity and nuance to this question.
You might take risks that you wouldn't otherwise take. A creative risk, like you might try something that you hadn't tried before because there's decreased inhibition, and you might produce something that's really good, or you might produce something that's really whack. It's harder to demonstrate a causation between cannabis and creativity. Certainly with our current lab measures.
As with McCartney and Dylan, Snoop, Dre, and Wiz before her, Ozzy doesn't need a study to tell her what she believes she already knows.
I feel like it relaxes you to kind of get to your higher self. Best music is made when I really don't think and I just let it flow from the heart. Like, let this go and let this go.
The Gong Show.
The bong. A sacred icon of stoner culture. A supremely efficient way of getting far too stoned. Often made from glass, a bong is essentially a pipe that funnels smoke through a water chamber. The liquid acting as a filter, softening the harshness of the smoke.
Oh, it tastes so good.
Scott Deppie is perhaps the most revered bong maker in the world. Although bong-like smoking devices date all the way back to ancient Russia, Ethiopia, and China, the origin of the modern era of high-end bongs begins just like the term 420 with the Grateful Dead. From the 1970s to the 90s, Deadheads would set up shop outside venues as they followed the band from city to city, show to show. An homage to one of the Dead's most classic songs, these makeshift marketplaces were known as Shakedown Street. Deadhead life was a counter-cultural caravan of music, art, and often grass. One of those along for the ride was Bob Snodgrass, who is credited with transforming pipes into works of art.
He's the godfather of the glass pipes industry.
For decades, Bob's one-of-a-kind Technicolor designs mesmerized the hippies on Shakedown Street, one of whom just happened to be Scott Deppie.
My brother came back to camp with this pipe that he had gotten from Snodgrass. It was the coolest thing in the world to me.
Start to finish, one bong can take Scott and his team of 40 anywhere from 1 to 6 months to complete. Less than 20 years ago, Scott's profession was generally conducted in secret. As recently as 2003, in a series of raids dubbed Operation Pipe Dreams, the DEA launched a nationwide takedown on bong manufacturers.
There's another illegal industry that is integrally linked to the drug trade. It's the drug paraphernalia business.
That was then. This is now. Today, artists like Scott no longer operate in the shadows. For weed is now legal, so too are the mechanisms for smoking it.
I knew it was going to happen someday.
And business is boom. Hell, if you've got $100K to spare, this bong could be yours.
What's the difference between being drunk and being stoned?
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Drunk or Stoned. Thanks for joining. Let's get this party started. Our first question tonight is, you're acting a bit clumsy right now. Feeling more sloppy than spacey. Are you drunk? Or are you stoned?
Drunk.
Drunk is right. The alcohol you've downed is messing with the part of your brain that controls balance and movement, the cerebellum, in a way that we just doesn't. All right, next step. If you're not careful and practicing moderation, the substance you're ingesting right now could kill you before morning. Are you getting drunk or are you getting stoned?
Stoned.
Wrong. The answer is drunk. Every day, 6 people die from alcohol poisoning. Well, there has never been a documented case of anyone dying from an overdose of weed. So you're not dead, but you do feel like shit. The room is spinning. You've got a headache. And you're slightly nauseous. Were you drunk last night, or were you stoned?
Drunk.
Drunk is right. And you're hungover. Your buddy, on the other hand, just texted you to say that he had amazing sex last night. Was he drunk like you, or did he choose to get stoned instead?
Given that I can't even remember last night, I'm gonna say he was stoned.
You are correct. While alcohol numbs the body, weed, as long as you don't overdo it, enhances your sensations. More sensation means more pleasure. More pleasure means better sex. Oh, and by the way, you get a bonus point for answering our next question before we even asked it. If you can't remember last night, you're experiencing a blackout. And that means you were drunk last night, not stoned. But remember, or maybe not, weed can have an impact on short-term memory. So we'll check back in a little while to see if you remember that you just won this installment of Drunk or Stoned.
What's the difference between THC and CBD?
The cannabis plant comes in all shapes and sizes. It's what's inside that counts. Each cannabis plant might contain any combination of more than 100 chemical compounds. Most of them concentrated in the buds of the plant. Of those compounds, you've probably heard of two: THC and CBD. But what sets these two compounds apart? THC THC will get you high. CBD will not. THC speeds up your heart rate. CBD slows it down. Both compounds have medicinal value, with research suggesting pain relief is best achieved when the two are taken together. There's just one little problem. CBD is legal. THC is not, at least not everywhere. Still banned in most states where even medical marijuana remains illegal.
Drug rats.
Every day, up to 3 times a day, here at Washington University, 16 rats are placed inside specifically designed cannabis vapor chambers.
I think we can learn a lot about what cannabis is doing to the brain by understanding how it affects the development of the rodent brain. It's organized in a very similar fashion.
Inside these plexiglass boxes are 2 holes, just big enough for a rat to poke its nose. The first hole, nothing, just an open, empty space. But if the rat sticks his nose into the other hole, it breaks a beam of infrared light, triggering reaction. Vapor is released into the chamber, and a smoke session begins. Rats are quick to learn how the hot box works. Some don't seem to like the vapor and stop triggering it. Others thoroughly enjoy the experience. Returning to the cannabis hole again and again and again. For 5 years, Dr. Ryan McLaughlin has been conducting studies on rats aimed at understanding the effects of cannabis on human intelligence.
Does weed make us dumber? Yeah, that's an interesting question. What I would say is that weed certainly changes your brain. It changes how synapses are wired.
In one study, Dr. McLaughlin found that adolescent rats, teenage rats, consuming more cannabis in their youth had greater difficulty learning new skills later in life, struggling with brain teasers like mazes and other strategy games.
The behavior impairment that we're seeing are very subtle, but they're nonetheless apparent when we start to actually challenge them with a little bit more cognitively demanding tasks.
These findings are consistent with other research showing that people who smoke a lot of cannabis during their teenage years may risk losing several IQ points compared to those who don't. And if you're under the age of 25, there's a chance that too much weed will have long-term effects on your short-term memory.
A drug like cannabis is not necessarily all good or all bad. There are particular layers to this that we need to really understand at a very fine-grained level.
Weed make me feel paranoid.
Do you feel like your friends are laughing at you? Convinced someone is watching your every move, wondering why Fido is giving you the side eye. If you answered yes to any or all of the above questions, you might be stoned. You might be experiencing anxiety. Might be paranoid. What the hell is going on, man? More likely than not, the THC you ingested in that weed you just consumed is overstimulating your amygdala. Sounds kinda hot, right? That part of your brain that processes emotions is way too excited. Your neural pathways firing on all cylinders. We can't tell you exactly why this is happening. Scientists aren't sure.
Next time, you might want to smoke a strain that's less potent. Or smoke less of the one you've got. Lower dosage and lower potency should both diminish your chances of freaking out.
In the meantime, do your best to chill. Relax and ride the high.
Ricky, you really the Ricky Williams story.
Back in the late 90s, Ricky Williams was a star running back at the University of Texas, a longhorn on his way to college football's highest honor. But at the age of 20, Ricky was just another student dealing with the typical pressures of young adulthood.
Fast forward to my senior year in college, and I was in the running for the Heisman Trophy, but at the same time going through a really bad breakup. And my roommate was a smoker. He suggested that I try smoking to help me. And after smoking, I actually got a decent night's sleep. And so it was my first experience of what we would now call medicinal effects of cannabis. But at the time, I just registered that it helped me feel better.
And cannabis continued to make Ricky feel better as he graduated from college into the big leagues.
As I went through the NFL and started to experience both physical stress, injuries, and mental stress, just being a professional football player, I found that cannabis helped. You know, it helped me let go of the day and wake up the next morning ready to go at it again.
When I talk to former pro athletes or current pro athletes who are using the plant, I think the most important benefit of cannabis and exercise is healing the body. Wonderful for pain management.
Recent studies have shown that cannabis works particularly well for many of the physical problems facing football players. Chronic pain, sore muscles, even with repairing the brain after a concussion. So it made sense that Ricky wanted to light up. But he was also playing with fire.
When I got traded to Miami, I came to work one day and the guy was right there and said, you know, you're up for a piss test. About a week later, I got a letter telling me that I failed the drug test and that I was entering the NFL's drug program. It meant that I'd be tested 9 times a month and I'd have to talk with a counselor for an hour each week.
By the early 2000s, when Ricky tested positive, the NFL had the strictest drug testing policies of any professional sport. While most leagues recognize that weed shouldn't incur as harsh a penalty as coke or amphetamines, cannabis users were always at a disadvantage when it comes to peeing in a cup. Pot stays in your system up to a month. Unlike most other drugs, which disappear from your body after a few days.
I just started to feel like a criminal and an addict, and I didn't agree that I had a problem. It didn't feel real or accurate. Somehow, it leaked that I was in the NFL drug program. That blow to my image was a lot. It got to the point where I was thinking, there's so many other things that I'd rather be doing with my life right now.
And so, Ricky made the extraordinary decision to walk away from the sport had defined him from the time he was a child.
The story that's told by the media is that I retired because I wanted to smoke pot. That's partially true, but the moment I retired, I felt this huge weight come off my shoulders, and I felt free. I felt this spirituality rise up in me. The only thing I could think of to help explain was seasons. You know, spring turns into summer, and summer turns into fall, and fall turns into winter, and it doesn't seem like nature really complains about it. Just this natural shift. So I made sense of it, thinking that maybe the season of football has come to an end and time for another season to start.
And that new season has kept Ricky a busy man.
I founded a wellness and herbal company, founding an astrological dating app. I'm in 2 master's programs.
There have been a lot of improvements, in the past decade as it relates to how professional sports are treating the use of cannabis for its athletes. The sensible evolution for the NFL would be to do the same thing as Major League Baseball is doing, which is just to abolish, cannabis testing altogether.
Perhaps Ricky was a man ahead of his time. In the summer of 2020, UT, Ricky's alma mater, renamed its football field after him.
I think that was the first moment where I felt exonerated. The fact that I could have a history of being a druggie and giving up all the money and all the controversy, but still people were interested in putting a statue of me up at the university and honoring me. It was huge.
It goes to show, sometimes doing what you know is right is more important than following the rules.
Why is vaping dangerous?
Like many other products and activities, vaping carries a risk and can be dangerous. Largely because many of the vape pens now flooding the market are illegal and unregulated. And it's nearly impossible to determine which ones they are. Illicit pen manufacturers aren't playing by any rules, and some take shortcuts, employing dangerous methods and materials, like using lighter fluid to extract cannabis oil from the plant. To increase profits, they might dilute that cannabis oil with chemicals not recommended for human inhalation. And then there's the pen itself, often
often made from cheap hardware. When using these lower quality pens, you may end up inhaling tiny flecks of heavy metals into your lungs. The heat of the pen can also turn otherwise harmless chemicals into poison. When, for example, microbutadiene, a chemical common in illicit weed oil, reaches 396 degrees Fahrenheit, it turns into hydrogen cyanide. Most pens reach 500 degrees or more. And did we mention cyanide? Nearly 90% of the serious lung injuries believed to be caused by vaping have been attributed to these illegal, unregulated pens. It should be noted, however, that even the legal pens have been around for only about 10 years, and little reliable data exists. So whether you're vaping nicotine or marijuana, be wary of the long-term health consequences, which remain largely unknown.
How will weed affect my sperm?
Here's how weed will affect your sperm.
A recent Harvard study found that cannabis was actually associated with increased sperm count. But you knew there was a but, right? Research has also shown that people who smoke weed have more trouble getting their partners pregnant. So, more sperm. But maybe they have no sense of direction and can't quite find the egg they're looking for. Most fertility doctors will tell both members of a couple to lay off the weed if they're trying to conceive.
Medicine. Rat medicine.
Here in the American heartland lies one state where marijuana remains totally illegal. In Wisconsin, getting caught with even a single bud of weed could land you in jail for more than 3 years. In 2018, authorities in Wisconsin made more than 17,000 arrests for possession of marijuana. As is the case around the country, many Wisconsinites are using cannabis not recreationally, but for medicinal purposes. Only here, they're still breaking the law by doing so.
My life is so overwhelming that I just feel like I can't slow down and can't stop.
This is Patrick DeLuz. Patrick served in the U.S. Army for over a decade, doing 2 tours of duty in Iraq in 2006 and 2008. Like hundreds of thousands of soldiers now back from the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, Patrick suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. Returning soldiers are often haunted by memories of death and destruction, triggered by seemingly innocuous events like a sudden loud noise.
Came back from Iraq and it was a wild ride. A long, really hard struggle. Financially, emotionally, physically.
Patrick now leads the Wisconsin chapter of a group called Weed for Warriors.
Nugging a little pipe that I had, and I felt a lot better. I felt more relaxed.
Weed for Warriors helps veterans around the country access cannabis for the purposes of treating the lingering effects of injuries, both physical and psychological.
I mean, it's rough, but, you know, this slows, like, gives me peace, lets me sleep. The dreams were so gripping.
Scary.
You got that whole damn spot in the bed wondering what the hell, who poured water on you?
Yeah.
That shit's crazy.
A recent study out of Israel showed that because cannabis suppresses one's ability to dream, it helps PTSD patients keep nightmares at bay. And allows them to sleep more peacefully through the night.
I leave a loaded pipe right next to my bed, and I'll roll over at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's the hard part is, you know, it's just maintaining
It is extremely difficult to come by. It's so much easier to get a pack of smokes than it is to get some weed. We have almost forced to go through some high kids or something sometimes, you know? It's ridiculous. Or deal with the drug dealer around the corner. I wish I lived in California or Colorado or Washington right now.
In places where legal cannabis is available, studies have shown a significant decrease in opioid-related deaths, which may suggest that many of those suffering from chronic pain are replacing their pills with pot.
It should just be legally nationwide, recreationally, and done. Let the people decide.